Hello again. We are reading from the Complete Jewish Bible, which is a translation of the Hebrew Bible, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 9, Shema. Hear, Israel, Adonai our God, Adonai is one, and you are to love Adonai your God with all your heart, all your being, and all your resources. These words which I am ordering you today are to be on your heart, and you are to teach them carefully to your children. You're to talk about them when you sit at home, when you are traveling on the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them on your hand as a sign, put them at the front of a headband around your forehead, and write them on the doorframes of your house and on your gates. Matthew chapter 6, verses 9 through 14, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, may your name be kept holy. May your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us the food we need today. Forgive us what we have done wrong, as we too have forgiven those who have wronged us. And do not lead us into hard testing, but keep us safe from the evil one. For kingship, power, and glory are yours forever. Amen. We're up to Genesis chapter 31. But then he heard what Laban's sons were saying. Jacob has taken away everything that our father once had. It's from what used to belong to our father that he has gotten so rich. He also saw that Laban regarded him differently than before. Adonai said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your ancestors, to your kinsmen. I will be with you." So Jacob sent for Rachel and Leah and had them come to the field where his flock was. He said to them, "I see by the way your father looks that he feels differently toward me than before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength, and that your father has belittled me and has changed my wages 10 times. But God did not allow him to do me any damage. If he said, 'The speckled will be your wages,' then all the animals gave birth to speckled young. And if he said, 'The streaked will be your wages,' then all the animals gave birth to streaked young. This is how God has taken away your father's animals and given them to me. Once, when the animals were mating, I had a dream. I looked up, and there in front of me the male goats which mated with the females were streaked, speckled, and mottled. Then in the dream the angel of God said to me, 'Jacob,' and I replied, 'Here I am.' He continued, 'Raise your eyes now and look. All the male goats mating with the females are streaked, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen everything Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Beit El, where you anointed a standing stone with oil, where you vowed your vow to me. Now get up, get out of this land, and return to the land where you were born.' Rachel and Leah answered him, 'We no longer have any inheritance from our father's possessions, and he considers us foreigners, since he has sold us. Moreover, he has consumed everything he received in exchange for us. Nevertheless, the wealth which God has taken away from our father has become ours and our children's anyway. So what God has told you to do, do.' Then Jacob got up, put his sons and wives on the camels, and carried off all his livestock along with all the riches he had accumulated, the livestock in his possession which he had acquired in Padan Aram, to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, so Rachel stole the household idols that belonged to her father. And Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramite by not telling him of his intended flight. So he fled with everything he had. He departed, crossed the Euphrates River, and set out for the hill country of Gilead. Not until the 3rd day was Laban told that Jacob had fled. Laban took his kinsmen with him and spent the next 7 days pursuing Jacob, overtaking him in the hill country of Gilead. But God came to Laban the Aramite and in a dream that night and said to him, 'Be careful that you do not say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.' When Laban caught up with Jacob, Jacob had set up camp in the hill country. So Laban and his kinsmen set up camp in the hill country of Gilead. Laban said to Jacob, 'What do you mean by deceiving me and carrying off my daughters as if they were captives taken in war?' Why did you flee in secret and deceive me and not tell me? I would have sent you off with joy and singing to the music of tambourines and lyres. You did not even let me kiss my sons and daughters goodbye. What a stupid thing to do. I have it in my power to do you harm, but the God of your father spoke to me last night and said, be careful that you do not say anything to Jacob, either good nor bad. Granted that you had to leave because you longed so deeply for your father's house, but why did you steal my gods? Jacob answered Laban, because I was afraid. I said, suppose you take your daughters away from me by force. But if you find your gods with someone, that person will not remain alive. So with our kinsmen to witness, if you spot anything that I have which belongs to you, take it back. Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. Laban went into Jacob's tent, then into Leah's tent, and into the tent of the two slave girls, but he did not find them. He left Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household gods, put them in the saddle of the camel, and was sitting on them. Laban felt all around the tent, but did not find them. She said to her father, please don't be angry that I'm not getting up in your presence, but it is that time of my period. So he searched, but he didn't find the household gods. Then Jacob became angry and started arguing with Laban. What have I done wrong? He demanded. What is my offense that you have come after me in hot pursuit? You have felt around in all my stuff, but what have you found of all your household goods? Put it here in front of my kinsmen and yours, so that they can render judgment between the two of us. I have been with you for these 20 years. Your female sheep and your goats have not aborted their young, and I have not eaten the male animals in your flocks. If one of your flocks was destroyed by a wild animal, I did not bring the carcass to you, but bore the loss myself. You demanded that I compensate you for any animal stolen, whether by day or by night. Here is how it was for me. During the day thirst consumed me, and at night the cold. My sleep fled from my eyes. Then 20 years I've been in your house. I have served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 for your flock, and you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, the one whom Isaac fears, had not been on my side, by now you would certainly have already sent me away with nothing. God has seen how distressed I have been and how hard I have worked, and last night he passed judgment in my favor. Laban answered Jacob, the daughters are mine, the children are mine, the flocks are mine, and everything you see is mine. But what can I do today about these daughters of mine or the children they have borne? So now, come, let us make a covenant, I and you, and let it stand as a testimony between you and me. Jacob took a stone and set it upright as a standing stone. Then Jacob said to his kinsmen, gather some stones, and they took stones, made a pile of them, and ate there by the pile of stones. Laban called it Jegar Sahadura, pile of witness in Aramaic, while Jacob called it Geled, pile of witness in Hebrew, Galed. Laban said, this pile witnesses between me and you today. This is why it is called Gal Ed, and also Hamitzpah, the watchtower, because he said, may Adonai watch between me and you when we are apart from each other. If you cause pain to my daughters, or if you take wives in addition to my daughters, then, even if no one is there with us, still God is witness between you and me. Laban also said to Jacob, here is the pile, and here is the standing stone, which I have set up between me and you. May this pile be a witness, and may the standing stone be a witness, that I will not pass beyond this pile to you, and you will not pass beyond this pile and the standing stone to me to cause harm. May the God of Abraham and also the God of Nachor, the God of their father, judge between us. But Jacob swore by the one his father Isaac feared. Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and invited his kinsmen to the meal. They ate the food and spent the whole night on the mountain. Judges chapter 7. Then Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all the people with him got up early and set up camp by Ain Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them, by Givat Moreh in the valley. Adonai said to Gideon, "There are too many people with you for me to hand Midian over to them, because I do not want Israel to be able to boast against me. We saved ourselves by our own strength. Therefore proclaim to the people, anyone who is anxious or afraid should go back home while we stay here on Mount Gilead." 22,000 returned, but 10,000 remained. Adonai said to Gideon, "There are still too many people. Have them come down to the water, and there I will screen them for you. If I say of anyone, this one is for you, he will go with you. And if I say this one is not for you, he will not go with you." So he brought the people down to the water, and Adonai said to Gideon, "Put to one side everyone who laps up water with his tongue the way a dog does, and put the other side everyone who gets down on his knees to drink." The 300 lapped, putting their hands to their mouth. All the rest of the men got down on their knees to drink. Adonai said to Gideon, "I will use the 300 men who lapped the water to save you. I will hand Midian over to you. Let all these others go back." So they took the provisions and the shofars of the people. Then he sent all the men of Israel away, each to his tent. But the 300 men he kept. The camp of Midian was in the valley below. That night Adonai said to him, "Get up and attack the camp, because I have handed it over to you. But if you are afraid to attack, go down with your servant Purah, and after you hear what they are saying, you will have the courage to attack the camp." So with his servant Purah he went down to the outposts of the camp. Now Midian, Amalek, and all the others from the east had settled in the valley, as thick as locusts. Their camels too were beyond counting, like the sand of the seashore. Gideon got there just as a man was telling a comrade about a dream he had had. "I just now dreamt that a loaf of barley bread fell into the camp of Midian, came to the tent, and struck it so hard that it overturned the tent and knocked it flat." His comrade answered, "This can only be the sword of Gideon's son of Joash, the man of Israel. God has given Midian and all its armies into his hand." When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he fell on his knees in worship. Then he returned to the camp of Israel and said, "Get up, because Adonai has handed Midian's army over to you." He divided the 300 men into 3 companies. He put in the hands of all of them shofars and empty pitchers with torches in them. Then he said to them, "Watch me and do what I do. When I get to the edge of the camp, whatever I do, you do the same. When I and everyone with me blow the shofar, then you blow your shofars all around the whole camp and shout for Adonai and for Gideon." Gideon and the 100 men with him arrived at the edge of the camp a little before midnight, just after they had changed the guard. They blew the shofars and broke in pieces the pitchers that were in their hands. All 3 companies blew the shofars, broke the pitchers, and held the torches in their left hands, keeping their right hands free for the shofars they were blowing, and they shouted, "The sword for Adonai and for Gideon." Then, as every man stood still in place around the camp, the whole camp was thrown into panic, with everyone screaming and trying to escape. Gideon's men blew their 300 shofars, and Adonai caused everyone in the camp to attack his comrades, and the enemy fled beyond Beit Shittah, near Tsererah, as far as the border of Avel Mecholah by Tabat. Then men of Israel were summoned from Naphtali, Asher, and both regions of Manasseh, and they pursued Midian. Gideon sent messengers through all the hills of Ephraim with the message, "Come down and attack Midian and capture the rivers before they get there, as far as Beit Barah and also the Jordan." So all the men of Ephraim came together and seized the rivers as far as Beit Barah and the Jordan. They also captured 2 chiefs of Midian, Oreb and Zeev. They put Oreb to death at the rock of Oreb and Zeev at Zeev's winepress. Then, as they kept pursuing Midian, they brought the heads of Oreb and Zeev to Gideon, who had crossed to the far side of the Jordan. We are on Psalms chapter 31. A Psalm of David. In you, Adonai, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your justice, save me. Turn your ear toward me. Come quickly to my rescue. Be for me a rock of strength, a fortress to keep me safe. Since you are my rock and fortress, lead me and guide me for your name's sake. Free me from the net they have hidden to catch me, because you are my strength. Into your hand I commit my spirit. You will redeem me, Adonai, God of truth. I hate those who serve worthless idols. As for me, I trust in Adonai. I will rejoice and be glad in your grace, for you see my affliction. You know how distressed I am. You did not hand me over to the enemy. You set my feet where I can move freely. Show me favor, Adonai, for I am in trouble. My eyes grow dim with anger, my soul and body as well. For my life is worn out with sorrow, and my years with sighing. My strength gives out under my guilt, and my bones are wasting away. I am scorned by all my adversaries, and even more by my neighbors. Even to acquaintances I am an object of fear. When they see me in the street, they turn away from me. Like a dead man, I have passed from their minds. I have become like a broken pot. All I hear is whispering. Terror is all around me. They plot together against me, scheming to take my life. But I trust in you, Adonai. I say you are my God. Many times are in your hand. My times are in your hand. Rescue me from my enemies' power, for those who persecute me. Make your face shine on your servant. In your grace save me. Adonai, do not let me be put to shame, for I have called on you. Let the wicked be put to shame. Let them be silenced in Sheol. May lying lips be struck dumb that speak insolently against the righteous with such pride and contempt. But oh, how great is your goodness, which you have stored up for those who fear you, which you do for those who take refuge in you, before people's very eyes. In the shelter of your presence you hide them from human plots. You conceal them in your shelter, safe from contentious tongues. Blessed be Adonai, for he has shown me his amazing grace. When I was in a city under siege, as for me, in my alarm I said, I have been cut off from your sight. Nevertheless, you heard my pleas when I cried out to you. Love Adonai, you faithful of his. Adonai preserves the loyal, but the proud he repays in full. Be strong and fill your hearts with courage, all of you who hope in Adonai. Now we're up to Mark chapter 3. Joshua went again into a synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there, looking for a reason to accuse him of something. People watched him carefully to see if he would heal him. On Shabbat, he said to the man with the shriveled hand, "Come up where I can see you." Then to them he said, "What is permitted on Shabbat, doing good or doing evil, saving life or killing?" But they said nothing. Then looking them over and feeling both anger with them and sympathy for them at the stoniness of their hearts, he said to the man, "Hold out your hand." And as he held it out, it became restored. The Perishim went out and immediately began plotting with some members of Herod's party how to do away with him. Joshua went off with his Talmidim to the lake, and great numbers followed him from the Galil. When they heard what he was doing, great numbers also followed him from Judah, Jerusalem, Idumea, the territory beyond the Jordan, and the Sor Sidon area. He told his talmidim to have a boat ready for him so that he could escape the crush of the crowd if necessary. For if he healed many people and all the sick kept pressing forward to touch him, whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they would fall down in front of him and scream, "You are the Son of God." But he warned them strictly not to make him known. Then he went up into the hill country and summoned to himself those he wanted, and they came to him. He appointed 12 to be with him, to be sent out to preach, and to have authority to expel demons. Shimon, to whom he gave another name, Kepha, Jacob ben Zabdi, and Jochanan, Jacob's brother. To them he gave the name Bnei Regesh, that is the thunders, the brothers. Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, Jacob, Ben Halphi, Taddai, Shimon the Zealot, and Judah from Kiryat, the one who betrayed him. Then he entered a house, and once more such a crowd came together that they could not even eat. When his family heard about this, they set out to take charge of him, for they said, "He's out of his mind." The Torah teachers who came down from Jerusalem said, "He has Baal Zebul in him, and it is by the ruler of the demons that he expels the demons." But he called them and spoke to them in parables. How can Satan expel Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot survive. And if a household is divided against itself, that household cannot survive. So if Satan has rebelled against himself and is divided, he cannot survive either, and that's the end of him. Furthermore, no one can break into a strong man's house, and no one can break into a strong man's house and make off with his possessions unless he first ties up the strong man. After that, he can ransack his house. Yes, I tell you that people will be forgiven all sins and whatever blasphemies they utter. However, someone who blasphemes against the Rosh HaKodesh never has forgiveness, but is guilty of eternal sin. For they had been saying, "He has an unclean spirit in him." Then his mothers and brothers arrived. Standing outside, they sent a message asking for him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they said to him, "Your mother and your brothers are outside asking for you." He replied, "Who are my mother and my brothers?" Looking at those seated in a circle around him, he said, "See, here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does what God wants is my brother, sister, and mother." Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 through 26. May Adonai bless you and keep you. May Adonai make his face shine on you and show you his favor. May Adonai lift his face towards you and grant you his shalom. Thank you so much again for joining us. Until next time, shalom.